under Commanding General YAHANNA, man. Because what we need to realize, right, and which is so evil in what they're promoting, they're turning things upside down. Telling sisters this is all right to be masculine, brothers it's all right to be feminine. I saw a video of a sister that broke down, man. She was in her 40s. Said she was married, had a good man, but she made it in the corporate world, was making more money than him. She felt as though that he was beneath her. She would believe, that he was beneath her. She said she used to belittle him and then divorced him. And then guess what happened? She said she went from sleeping from man to man, so alone at night, miserable. And guess what that man did? He went and got a new rib and had kids with that rib, and was well better off. Partner. That's the part that they don't want our sisters to know. That's why if you are, you know what I mean. If you're trying to separate from this wicked society, you need the I.S.U.P.K. Because here sisters can be feminine. Here men can be masculine. You can't have that in the world. In the world, they want you to be like Dwayne Wade and his son. Yes, his son, because he's still a boy. I seen another video, of a father sobbing and crying his eyes out, you know what I mean, on some talk show because his son came out dressed like a woman. I was like, God damn. Goes to show you, man, that's what they want in this place. And it starts with that. What we don't understand is being in that Christian church, being in that Muslim mosque, being under that pastor, being under that imam, listening to everything that these false prophets that your pastor and imam and that the oppressor is saying. Like right now, they gearing up for Easter, my thumb. And Easter is not the whole, practice of Easter is not in the Bible. It's not. We celebrate the Passover where the Lord passed over us, and saved us and delivered us from them Africans, man. Easter is a Babylonian, custom. And I'm going to show it to you. Give me Amos chapter 5 and verse 21.
This book of Amos chapter 5, verse 21. I hate.
The Lord said, what?
I hate.
The Lord said, I hate. I wonder, first of all, even with that, the Lord saying, I hate, what does the Lord hate? What does he hate? I thought God was incapable of hate. Guess what, Christians? God can hate. And we're about to find out what. The scriptures say there's a time for love, a time for hate. Keep going.
Oh, God. I despise your feast days.
I despise what?
Your feast days.
The Lord said, I despise your feast days, meaning your Easter, your Memorial Day, your Thanksgiving, your Christmas, your birthday. That is what our God despises. He despises all of these things. And you think it's a glorious thing to do. To put on your Sunday best, put on that suit, dragging them. I remember when I was a kid, y'all, my mother used to drag me to roughest church. I'd be mad as hell, mad as hell. Because here's the thing, man. You got to understand, none of that is in the Bible. The whole eggs and, rabbits laying eggs and the candy and all that garbage, man. Like it actually derives from I.S.U.P.K, which is a Babylonian goddess of fertility. And it suits the Christian church celebrating that because what is the church famous for? Sleeping with your wife and your woman and your mama and auntie and molesting them kids. Following after the Babylonians. Following after them. That's why our God had the wherewithal to tell us and command us to not celebrate their feast days. The Lord said, I despise your feast days. And it ain't just Easter, Mother's Day, Father's Day. A lot of y'all gonna fold, man. A lot of y'all are going to fold. I pray you don't. Because when Mother's Day come around, your mother gonna look at you and be like, you're not gonna give me a gift, baby? Let me tell you something. Then she's gonna say, but you have to honor thy father and thy mother. You honor your mother by not getting her a gift on Mother's Day.
Right.
You honor your father by not getting him a gift on Father's Day. You honor, your parents by not telling them happy birthday. And you'll be a better parent, than they are. By abiding by these laws, statutes, and commandments and raising your children up in this truth. It starts by coming in here and becoming a new man and saying, listen, we ain't celebrating Easter no more. That's dead. We dead to Easter. We dead to Memorial Day and Mother's Day and Father's Day and Valentine's Day and all of these different customs. Because our God said he hates and despises our feast days. Read.
And I will not smell in your solemn assembly.
And I will not smell in your solemn assembly. Let me tell you something. My slave, you know what I mean? I slave in them warehouses, you know, managing that. Let me tell you something. The amount of hams they brought through that warehouse, brother. I was like, man, I'm about to be unclean. Now, I ain't touching them, of course, but I was like, God damn. Just rolling in like pallets and pallets and pallets upon hams for what? I looked down, you know what I mean, at the invoice quantity. It said for Easter. I said, God damn. Your pastor is going to be running up a day, getting them hams, giving them out on Easter, and pork is unlawful. But the beauty of this is God said he ain't smelling none of that anyway. He said, I will not smell in your solemn assemblies. So when you get together for that Easter Sunday dinner or brunch or whatever you're going to do, God is not going to be smelling that. You know what God is going to smell? That delicious Passover lamb that we are going to have April 1st in Raleigh, North Carolina. That's what God is going to smell. He is going to smell that delicious unleavened bread. Like, that's what I'm waiting for. That, listen, I don't think y'all brothers understand. It's going to be your first Passover. You get that Passover lamb, you dip that, and y'all don't know, you dip that unleavened bread and that lamb gravy. I've been thinking about that shit, Salak. I've been thinking about that for the past 2 weeks. Trying to tell you. I'm just saying, you see me in the corner with my plate, just leave me be. Let me get that. That's what God is going to smell. He ain't smelling that Easter ham or whatever y'all cooking up on Easter. He's not smelling none of that. And it's a beautiful thing to realize too, because as the Lord's chosen people, right, we are so destroyed that we have no clue who we even are. Like we've been, Matham, give me Jeremiah 17 and verse 4. Because we have been disconnected from our heritage. Barakatah Yahweh Yahushua for the I.S.U.P.K, the commanded journey YAHANNA, because we've been bringing this truth out since 1969, that we are the biblical Jews of antiquity. And that's one thing, if you notice, right? If you notice, like how they came and shut down every entertainer and every actor that came out and said, we're the Jews, they never once was able to refute the information. You can forget about them trying to challenge us. They never will. Your rabbi never will. Because the thing is, no one else has been disenfranchised the way we have. We've been cut off from our identity because we chose to follow after these heathens and follow after Easter and follow after, you know what I mean, the oppressor. We have no clue who we even are. And that's in the Bible. You got what I asked for, my thumb? Go ahead.
Jeremiah chapter 14, verse 2.
17 and 4. Salaki. Yeah, 17 and 4.
17, verse 4. Chapter 17, verse 4.
Mm-hmm.
And thou, even thyself, shall discontinue from thine heritage.
It says, and thou, even thyself, shall discontinue from thy inheritance. Meaning this, we've been discontinued from our inheritance. What is our inheritance? We got to understand that our God chose us. He chose us out of all these nations to be his people. We're called after the Lord's name. Yasha means princess of the power. And if you assist the princess of the power, we call by the Most High's name. It says, thou even thyself shall discontinue from thy inheritance. Meaning this, we've been discontinued from our identity, our culture, who we are. You ask a brother today, what's his nationality? He might give you a church denomination. Then he'll tell you, oh, I'm African American. When the term African American is fairly recent. You know what I mean? We went from being Negroes, you know what I mean, coloreds. They still call us niggas. That's in the Bible. You know what I mean? That we be called these bywords, man. But we are the chosen people of God. Yasha Allah, princes of the power. We've been discontinued from that. Following after these heathens, wanting to be free, white, and 21. Thinking it's all right to live the lifestyle of the oppressor. And what do we get from living this lifestyle? We get destroyed. We get destroyed. That's why they can come up in our schools and do what they do, like in Uvalde, Texas. I believe another one happened today, you know what I mean, in Nashville, Tennessee, man. Go to show you. Lord be with them brothers and sisters out there, man. And that's why the U.P.K is needed, so we can continue to bring out this truth. Because we have no clue, our people have no clue who we are. Like no iota, that our heritage, our whole culture is right here. is right here. Like the church, you know what I mean, and the mosque and the oppressor has done such a damaging job to our people, having us believe that it's all right, you know what I mean, to be up in that church, that God loves everybody. It's all right to celebrate these pagan holidays. Those things are not okay. That's why we have been discontinued from our inheritance. Keep going. Keep reading. Jeremiah 17:4. And thou even thyself.
That I gave thee.
That I what?
Gave thee.
That I gave thee, meaning the Lord gave this to us. The Lord gave this to us. He chose us. And listen, he said if he'd have chose anybody else, Quatazah, they'd be serving him right now. If he chose Moab, the Chinese would be serving him right now. If he chose Africans, the Africans would be serving him right now. But he didn't choose them. Hey, shalom, sir. You went to class, sir?
Yeah.
Come. With that being said, I'm going to pass the class off to Priest and Captain Ariel.
I'm gonna be holding it down for General Hyman tonight. As you know, the Passover is coming up, so the generals is definitely making some last minute preparations, doing all things they gotta do to make sure everything is to wild for this year's Passover. So we're gonna hold it down for General Hyman tonight. Before I start, is any questions online, preferably in the room first? If any of your brothers and sisters in the room have questions.
What does it mean to test the Most High? Don't tempt, I can't think of what scripture.
Don't tempt the Most High. Don't tempt God. To tempt the Most High is to put it simply, to do something that you know is dangerous, but you believe that the Most High will protect you because you follow the Most High. So, I guess jumping off a cliff. It's an extreme example, but it's an extreme example would be I'm jumping off a cliff and I'm thinking me jumping off this cliff is going to be fine and the angels are going to swing down and carry me away because I follow the Most High. That would be to tempt the Most High to assume that God is going to save me once I jump off this cliff. When in all likelihood I'll just die because I'm tempting the Most High. I'm living in a way that I'm living a foolish life. That although may not be technically sinful, I put myself in situations that I think the Lord is going to get me out of, but he won't. But that is not guaranteed that he will, because the life I'm living is risky, is not wise. Good.
That's not wise. So
Yeah.
anything I would do that's foolish or stupid choice or foolish or stupid decision that would be something the Most High.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say anything that you're doing, anything you go and do that is foolish, that you could put yourself in danger, that may not necessarily be a sin, but is, like you said, foolish, is unwise. You're tempting the Most High by doing that. By doing something foolish and just assuming that God is going to be with you. Living your life like that, you're tempting God, and you're almost testing the Most High's hands, living a foolish life. And it happens all the time to brothers and sisters where you think you can, because you're in the truth, because you got a certain level of knowledge, you can live life like there's still things out here that will destroy you. So I got another simple way is the way you interact with people, the way you interact with the police. Now that you're in the truth, when you get pulled over, don't think that you're gonna cuss out the cops and get away with it. Don't think you're gonna get pulled over, cuss the cop out, call him a devil and all that, and he's not gonna pull you out the car and whoop your ass. He's still gonna do it, even though you're in the truth, because you still have to live your life with a certain level of wisdom, even though you have the truth. Because you have the truth, that gives you a certain level of wisdom. So take on that wisdom and don't live life recklessly, because now you have like an inflated ego, an inflated sense of security because you follow God. You still have to live a wise life, even though the Most High is with you, and make wise decisions outside of sin. Of course, any sin is evil, and you're doing more than tempting the Most High. You're disobeying God. But there's other decisions you may make in life that aren't sins, but are unwise, and those things may be tempting the Most High. Like I said, the extreme example is like jumping off a cliff, or I guess a debatable one is what's the thing when they jump on the plane? Bungee jumping or something like that. That's like an extreme example of what I'm talking about. Go ahead, sis.
Also, Satan can be tempting the Most
I wouldn't call that. I know. I wouldn't call that tempting the Most High. I would call that just flat out disobeying the Most High, disobeying God's laws. That's extreme. That's it's not tempting God. That's flat out disobeying Him. Any other questions in the room? Oh, no, so let me get we're gonna start out with Exodus 2 and 11. Like as we all know, the I.S.U.P.K is having what was it, the 54th? You done? We have a 54th annual Passover in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's coming up. Like Adai was bringing out, I think I was watching on the class before he was bringing out. Right now, the earth is getting ready, and the Christian world is getting ready to celebrate Easter. But here in I.S.U.P.K, we have held on to the traditions of God. We in I.S.U.P.K, we actually celebrate the Most High. I mean, we actually follow the Most High, actually follow God. We are grown men and women who follow the Most High, and we don't worship bunnies and eggs. We decide to hold fast to the laws, statutes, and commandments, and the traditions that were laid down by our forefathers. And that's why this year, like every year, in I.S.U.P.K, since our foundation, we are going to celebrate the Most High's Passover, observe the Most High Passover. So tonight, I'm going to give like a general breakdown of the Passover, of the story of the Passover. For any brother or sister that's out there that's new in the school, new to the truth in general, and may not know the general story. The story is overall long. It's all throughout the book of Exodus, all the way, technically, I guess, yeah, the whole book of Exodus, much of the Old Testament is talking about stories before, after, and during the Lord's Passover, right? Or our captivity in Egypt. So we're going to pull out a few scriptures showing you in general, a general breakdown of what happened before, during, and after the Lord's Passover. We're going to get over what the Passover is, what that term means. Whoever got it can read it. Exodus 2 and 11.
This book of Exodus chapter 2 verse 11. And it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown, that he went out unto his brethren and looked on their burdens.
It came to pass. We all know about Moses. Moses, he's a guy you may have heard about on TV, in church. They may quote Moses, bring Moses up every now and again, and even in your Christian church. But Moses, he was the leader chosen in Israel at this time. He was a man chosen in his day to lead his people out of captivity in Egypt. At this point, around the time Moses was alive, the Israelites had been in Egypt for around 400 years. They had been in Egypt around 400 years, and Moses was a man that grew up in Egypt. For all intents and purposes, he grew up as an Egyptian. Moses was a man that was adopted by the daughter of Pharaoh. He was adopted by the daughter of Pharaoh because when Moses was born, it was an order given out. It was an order given out that all the men children, all the boys that were born of the children of Israel were to be cast into the river. They were to be killed by the Egyptians because the nation of Israel had grown very strong. When Israel came into Egypt, it wasn't even really a nation, wasn't even really a race of people. It was around, I believe, 70 people walked into Egypt when the Israelites first came to Egypt. But as the hundreds of years went by, we grew into a mighty nation, and we began to become intimidated by the Egyptians. The Egyptians began to fear us, and so they went out to try to eradicate us and lower our populations, very similar to what goes on today in abortion clinics. And what you'll see, and when you read about the Exodus, you read about stories about our captivity in Egypt. There are many parallels, many similarities between what happened in Egypt and what we go through today. The same spirits that were on that earth today, that were on the earth back then, that wanted to destroy us, wanted to wipe us out, wanted to take us away from our heritage, wanted to find a way to make us disobey God. They are still here today. And that same spirit that comes on certain men to stand on the Most High, stand with the Most High, even when nobody else does. Stand with the truth, even when nobody else does. That spirit that was with Moses, or with many men in the past that we read about in this Bible, is still here with us today. And you're going to see many parallels and many lessons that we can take from the captivity in Egypt and use it today. So read that from the top. So what I just explained to you just now about Moses, that's later on. I'm sorry, that's earlier in the scriptures. I skipped that for time's sake, but we're just going to get to, I guess you could say, a catalyst, a big breaking point in Moses' life. So like I said, Moses, he was adopted. He was adopted by Pharaoh's daughter. So Moses was royalty. Moses was a man that today in America, he was a man that grew up rich, or he grew up with family that was in government. You could put it like that. Moses wasn't the common brother that worked the job every day. Moses wasn't the common man that grew up, that had a regular life. He grew up what we would call privileged. Today he would have a white picket fence in a nice house. He would have went to a private school. He would have had a life that was better than the average Black and Hispanic and Native Indian person. He had a life where he didn't have to worry about struggling, and Moses did not have to worry about the struggles of the average Black and Hispanic person. He was a brother that could have just worried about being an Egyptian, worried about coming closer to Egyptian culture and living like an Egyptian because he was privileged. He could have lived that type of lifestyle, but he still had a spirit of how do I put it? He still had a spirit to stand with his people. He still had a spirit that behooved him to cleave unto his people and do what's right for his people, even though he lived a life where he didn't have to do that. He didn't have any obligations. He could have just lived like an Egyptian, but he decided to stand with the Israelites. So read that.
And it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown, that he went out unto his brethren and looked on their burdens.
So Moses was grown. He grew older. He was an adult now, and Moses went out and he looked at his brother. He looked at his people in Egypt. Read on.
And he spied an Egyptian smiting in Hebrew.
And he spied an Egyptian smiting in Hebrew. So Moses saw an Egyptian, a Hamite, a so-called African that you would see today. He saw an African smiting, attempting to kill a Hebrew and Israelite. So to put it in your mind, Moses goes out and he sees his people, the Israelites in Egypt. These are Black people, Hispanics, Native Indians, and they are in bondage. They are in slavery. They're poor. If you want to understand Egypt, pretty much put yourself in the mind of what's going on right now today, without the cars and the smartphones. The same as that thing is going on today with a different language and a different set of technology. So Moses, he went out, he saw his people, they were enslaved. They served another race of people. They served the Egyptians. And he saw one of these Egyptians, one of these Africans, attempting to kill one of his brothers, an Israelite. Read on.
One of his brothers. So once again, Moses, he was a Hebrew, he was an Israelite, and he saw this Egyptian trying to smite his brother, smite somebody that was the same blood as him. Read on. Verse 12. And he looked this way and that way.
So Moses, when he saw this thing, he saw the scene. He saw the Egyptian killing his brother, and when he saw it, he stopped and he looked this way and looked that way. Moses, before he did what he did, he wanted to go make sure there wasn't any witnesses. He looked around this way and that way, and took a second to make sure there was nobody else around seeing what was about to happen. Read on.
And when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian.
And when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian. So when Moses looked around and saw that nobody was around to see what was going to happen, he went and he defended his brother and he killed the Egyptian. He killed that Egyptian and defended his brother that was being killed. You know.
And did them in the sand. He
killed him and buried him in some sand and hid the body. So it was you can imply at least that by Moses killing him and hiding the body, that what he did was wrong. what he did, of course, at least according to the Egyptians and the society he was in at that time, for whatever reason, it was considered wrong, even though he was defending his brother. Even though he was defending that man, he killed him. Before he did it, he looked around to make sure nobody could see it. He killed him and then he hid the body. So Moses knew it was something that he shouldn't be doing, at least according to the Egyptians. Read on.
Verse 13. And when he went out the second day, behold, 2 men of the Hebrews strolled together.
So the next day, Moses was out. Moses was out and about, and he saw 2 Israelite brothers, 2 Hebrews, 2 black men, 2 Hispanic men fighting each other. Like I said, it's just like today in America. Today in America, who is a black man worried about? A black man is worried about the police and other black men, unfortunately. So the very next day, Moses went out and he saw 2 Hebrews, 2 Israelites, 2 brothers, 2 black men, 2 Hispanic men, 2 Native American Indians fighting each other. Read on.
And he said to him that did the wrong, wherefore